So thank you, Eduardo. So let's start with this session. This session is, let me just go to the program. So welcome to the plenary session. The session about the topic of this session is the science and practice of astronomy communication. And we will start with our first speaker, Patrícia Figueiró Spinelli, I hope I pronounced well, from Brazil. She will speak about, so her talk is, Can Astronomy Communication Embrace a Science, Technology, Society, and Environment Approach? And we are eager to hear about.
So thanks everybody. Thanks for the local organizing committee for having us have this opportunity to speak about the research topics that also interest us. And I'm currently conducting this research that relates the framework of science, technology, society, and environment, which is normally referred as STSE approach, and the relation with astronomy communication. So I'm conducting this research with Professor Marta Marandino at the University of São Paulo. And first, I would like to begin by sharing my motivations for this research. So please, next slide. Next. Thank you. So it all begins at the place where I actually work, that is the Museum of Astronomy and Related Sciences in Rio. That was originally the home for the National Observatory, and now it operates as a research institution under the Brazilian Ministry of Science and Technology, but we do not conduct research on astrophysics. Our fields focus on history of science, museum studies, archive studies, science communication, and education. And this is actually where my work is situated. And through 13 years of experience, next please, in the museum, I've come to understand that astronomy communication in Latin America context is really complex. Mariana told us a little bit about this in this morning, and this is due to our colonial past, because this will produce persistent inequalities that trigger urban violence, environmental problems, epistemic challenges, and sorry. And these conditions also lead to a broader culture of limited participation in political spheres, cultural spheres, and also science. And this has led me to reflect already for a long time the role of astronomy communication in such context, and to what extent this astronomy communication can actually be meaningful to these people that faces so much struggles in life. So in other words, can astronomy communication really contribute to social transformation? So next, please. And again, next. So if we consider the broader field of science communication, there is no close definition to what science communication, neither astronomy communication is. And maybe this lack of consensus may explain the wide range of terminologies that we use to explain what we actually do. But there is a general agreement, please next, that science should it's our contact with society, and to broaden the access of scientific knowledge to broader audiences. But more recent studies from scholars of the field argue that it should go beyond mere dissemination, because it can actually help to the exercise of democracy, since informed citizens can actually take better decisions in life. So next, please. So when it comes to the subfield of astronomy communication, next, please. A study led by Anjos, Russo, and Carvalho that actually surveyed practitioners during the 2018 CAP conferences. They have several findings, but among of the findings, when it comes for the several reasons and goals for communicating astronomy identified within our community, there are three that are particularly relevant for this study, as they align with the idea of promotion social change through science. So next, please. So these three main goals are to make people aware of the practices and constraints of science and scientists, to talk about astronomy contributions to solve societal problems, and as well to develop critical thinking. So these three main goals, they suggest that at least at the level of the discourse, our community recognizes that astronomy communication can go beyond mere dissemination and perhaps try to contribute to social transformation. Next, please. So for these reasons, we became interested in learning more about the STSE framework that is actually rooted in the social studies of science, but it has been widely adopted in science education for over 4 decades. And the practices under this framework, they are aligned with aims of preparing individuals to exercise citizenship. So next, please. So it has emerged in the 70s and the 80s in response to post-war tensions, industrialization, nuclear risks, and also growing environmental concern. And there are many pedagogical approaches that could fit within this framework. But generally speaking, it is fundamentally interdisciplinary, as is the case of astronomy. And it should go beyond cognitive learning, because if we want to foster critical thinking, it's important to address the role of science in society, including political, ethical, environmental, and other dimensions of science. And building on this perspective, Pedretti and Nazir analyzed a broad range of STSE practices over these 4 decades, and they organized them into 6 major methodological currents. Next, please. So with all this in mind, we then asked ourselves, is it possible to actually develop STSE approach in astronomy communication? And if our community is actually saying that we want to foster critical thinking, how these astronomy communication activities are being conducted? So next, please. Then to address these questions, we conducted a qualitative analysis of 2 main sources. First, IAU documents, because this would allow us to understand in this institutionalized level the discourse surrounding the purposes for astronomy communication. In particularly, we analyzed the strategic plan and also big ideas in astronomy. And second, we also analyzed the CAP publication journals, the past 10-year contributions. In total, we have read 134 abstracts. And using the framework from Pedretti and Nazir, we classified all this content into these 6 major currents. Next, please. So as preliminary results, big ideas in astronomy indicates emphasis in astronomical contact as expected. But at the same time, the document does include discussions related to the very nature of how science is performed, which is in agreement with STSS framework. However, this discussion remains a bit limited. For instance, one example of one excerpt that acknowledges that ground-based observatories are often located in remote regions around the world. And we may ask, remote to whom? Next, please. Because, for instance, the existence of territorial conflicts like the Mauna Kea region illustrates how local population also contest the presence of observatories. Next. I may skip that one. Next. And then next. Yes, thank you. Regarding the CAP journal publication, our preliminary results indicate that the majority of the publications, and by extensions, the practices that actually they describe, the papers describe, are also aligned with the application and design current of STSE framed by Pedretti and Nazir, which actually has an utilitarian vision of astronomy communication. But we have also identified examples aligned with the more sociocultural STSE approaches. Next, please. So, for instance, there is a publication describing an exhibition developed to communicate how cosmological research is conducted. And while such initiatives are very valuable, they tend to prioritize the understanding of the context and very little critical engagement. Another example, the below one, is a project that focuses on individuals and the lives of professional astronomers through the photographic language. And this is an illustration of a social-cultural approach because it emphasizes the understanding of science embedded in a broader social-cultural context. So next, please. So in conclusion, and turning to the title of this talk, these findings should be understood as preliminary because it's an ongoing analysis. But so far, what we have seen is that the institutional discourse, as well the community practices published at CAP Journal, they remain shaped by this transmissional way of communicating astronomy or related to the density models. Which does not strongly support critical thinking and are not really aligned with STSE frameworks, and therefore more difficult for us to say that it's going to transform society or anything like this. On the other hand, we do observe a growing movement to engage audiences that face structural barriers to communicate astronomy. Especially, there are many works at CAP Journal to visually impaired people and blind people. But there is an also interesting thing that institutional documents from IAU have been really emphatic that public outreach initiatives should be shaped with the public and not to the public. And that's really nice because if this is at the discourse level of our major organization body, it really encourages co-creation with the public, and then therefore a broader participation in astronomy in general. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have maybe space for one very quick question. So one question from the public. King? Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Have you run into any institutional or funding roadblocks with prioritizing this perspective over like a hard science focus? And if so, how have you managed to mitigate that to prioritize these other perspectives like social justice?
Yeah, it's funny because like now we are just analyzing like documented practices and IAU politics. But for instance, here at CAP, we actually see many practices that have completely different approaches. Perhaps we are not writing about them, and we should, because my initial hypothesis is that our community is really trying hard to use astronomy for development and for a better world. But of course, if you are like a part of a PR office of a major institution, of course you're going to make propaganda of astronomy, and that's okay too. That's not a problem. I think we should have all formats. But to me, what bothers me is that if we keep saying that we want astronomy to develop critical thinking, we want astronomy for a better world, we really have to revise our methodological approach. Like this really has to be done with the people we want to transform reality.
Okay, so we will go to the next speaker. Okay. So the next speaker is Giulia Mantovani from Italy. The title of the talk is Galileo's Legacy, Immersive Outreach, Enquiry-Based Learning, and Science Diplomacy.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Giulia Mantovani, and I'm working in public engagement and communication of science at the Italian National Institute for Astrophysics based in Rome. And today I'm going to present you Galileo's Legacies, a project that connects the historical heritage with modern technology. Our main goal is to show how astronomy can be a powerful tool for education, public trust, and international cooperation. So a project like this requires different type of expertise, and to do so, we brought together 4 key partners: the Italian National Institute for Astrophysics for the Scientific Foundation, this virtual immersion in science, the very first spin-off of the Scuola Normale di Pisa for the technological innovation in virtual reality, Museo Galileo to ensure historical accuracy, and of course IAU with the Office Astronomy for Outreach, which allowed us to reach a global network. Okay. So our vision was really simple. We want to empower the next generation of global citizens in order to be able to think, observe, and discover like Galileo did. So the perfect laboratory for our project was the Expo 2025 in Osaka. We present this project at the Italian Pavilion during the Italian National Week in the first days of September. And of course, IAU was important because we had strong support both from OAO and also from the Office of Astronomy for Education to help us build up cooperation in Japan. So the format was a one-day event. In the morning, we had around 60 Japanese high school students experiencing an educational lab and VR immersive experience. And in the afternoon, a roundtable discussion between partners representative. In this talk, I'm going to focus on the first part in the morning with the interaction with the students. So we reach around 60 students. And this project allowed us to test our methodology in a different cultural environment, and proving also that astronomy is really a true universal language. So as I said before, students were around 60, and they were divided in 2 groups. One was doing the educational activity, and the other one was looking at this immersive video thanks to the standalone headset. And after 1 hour, the 2 groups switched in order to give the opportunity to the students to experience both the activity. So Galileo VR is an immersive video of around 10 minutes, 360 degrees experience. Is developed by VIS, and if you have more questions about this video, you can ask Marcos Valdez, which is attending the conference in person. And during this video, the life of Galileo is presented with all his revolutionary discoveries and the trial in the 1633. The innovation is not only on the VR experience, but is also about accessibility, because this video is available in 9 different languages. So we were able to propose it also to Japan students. And it combines the creativity with the historical teaching, and using evocative storytelling, we made 17th century science immediate and more close and relevant to a modern and global audience. So in parallel, the other group was dealing with the educational activities called Beyond Galileo, Tracking the Sunspot. Is a lab inspired by an activity published on AstroEdu called Is the Sun Rotating, and is based on the Enquiry-Based learning method. So we gave a brief introduction of Galileo's figures and his major discoveries. And after that, we gave to the students a copy of the original drawings of the sunspot made by Galileo in 1612, and they start to look at them and seeing all these little dots, and they try to build up some hypotheses of the nature of these points. Some of them says there were clouds, there were planets. Some of them also says there were black holes orbiting around Sun. And after that, we provide to the student real modern data acquired in 2014 by the Solar Dynamic Observatory from NASA. And there was a set of data of images taken day by day for 1 month. And so they were looking at this modern data, trying to test their hypothesis and validate their hypothesis. So the outcome was really important. Students realize applying the scientific method that little dots were actually sunspots placed on the external part of the sun, and that were not external body to the sun. And actually they calculate the sun's rotation period by their own. And they realized with this lab that the scientific method and the scientific logic that Galileo used in the 17th centuries was the exact same logic that researchers use nowadays, and they did during this lab. So this hands-on activity, this lab, turns the students from passive listeners into scientific researchers and detective, and start to build a trust in the scientific method. So, of course, there were some barriers, and the most important one was the language. Japanese students don't speak so much English, and they were really, really shy asking questions. So, to overcome this barrier, we had the help of Professor Tomita from the Office Astronomy for Education, and who translated the entire lab in lifetime. And another issue that we realized is that the Japanese method is completely different from the, let's say, Italian approach. They are used to a frontal teaching, high precision. They hesitate to ask questions and start an open debate. And we try to mix a bit this cultural approach to the Italian method, we presenting a guided storytelling, encouraging open question and debate, to let the communication going. So these are the lessons learned, and I want to highlight 3 of them. First of all, immersive storytelling, immersive technology works. VR is really a powerful bridge that makes science funny, inclusive, and also exciting. Students learned by doing things and not just passive listening professor talking about science. They were using real data, and they turn out to be actual researchers. And finally, astronomy is really a universal and neutral platform that can foster successful international cooperation. So concluding, Galileo's legacy is not just something about history and in the past. It could be a tool for inspiring new generation of scientists, but also communication science. Thank you so much.
The online questions. And the title of the talk is Advocating for Astronomy, Strategic Communication in an Unfolding Battle to Protect Paranal's Dark Skies. We still have Giulia online. I don't know if, okay. Okay, we have some miscommunication. No, we don't have questions. Okay. Oh. Sorry. Seems that there are questions actually. So Giulia, can you go online as again?
No, I think Giulia left from the online.
Oh, okay.
I don't see her. Either if she can come back right now, or
Maybe
else we can discuss them at the end of the.
Yes, we will try to reach her. Maybe she can join online later, so we can ask her the questions that were online. Okay. Thank you. So let's go to the next speaker. As I said, the next speaker is Anna-Lynn Wegener. Hi, Anna.
Hi, hello.
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you and we can see your slides. So please just start.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna-Lynn. I'm the head of communications at ESO, and I'm going to talk to you about a topic today I think that concerns all of us in astronomy communication in some way. And this is about strategic communication to protect dark skies. And I'm going to talk you through specifically a case that we have faced at ESO at Paranal Observatory in the course of the last year. So I imagine that for this audience, this introduction is not required, but ESO, who are we? The European Southern Observatory. We're an intergovernmental organization with 16 member states, European member states. We design, build, and operate telescopes, and they're all based in Chile, in the Atacama Desert. And that's important, actually, for the whole story that I'm going to tell you. And that is, let me start with a question, and that's the big question of what is it actually that makes astronomy possible and astronomy research possible. If you work at a research infrastructure like myself, maybe your answer is cutting-edge telescopes, and there's certainly truth in that. There's an element of the people who make it possible, the skilled talent, the scientists, the creativity they bring. We need political support, we need financial support to function, we need public legitimacy to operate. And most of all, we do need access to dark and quiet skies, depending on what kind of astronomy you're doing. And the latter is absolutely fundamental, and the conditions here for astronomy are under threat worldwide from various sources. And I'm going to talk you through a case study of what that can look like. That is the reality that we have lived at ESO in 2025. And you may have followed that on the news. There was a plan to construct a real mega project in the area of green energy production, very close by to our observatory sites in the Atacama Desert, close to Paranal Observatory, in the order of 10 kilometers away from the VLT, the Very Large Telescope, and the Cherenkov telescope array that is constructed newly there at the south side was only 5 kilometers away from that planned project. And that was a problem because the project would have caused significant light pollution, among others. And that is, of course, difficult for astronomy in the optical range. Apart from the light pollution that the project would have caused, and we're talking here about an increase in light pollution over the VLT of 35% and over the CTAO of roughly 55%, so very, very significant because they're very dark sites. The project would have also caused other interference, vibrations, air turbulence induced by wind turbines, and also dust in the construction phase of the project that would have settled on the mirrors and really impacted astronomy research tremendously. So there I'd argue this is a real threat to astronomy and likely beyond, because it's not only astronomy that is affected by that. A threat in the sense that the VLT and the ELT that are our biggest facilities there would lose their abilities to detect the faintest cosmic light sources, which is why we built them there. They would be crippled in the capabilities that they were designed to do. On the one hand, that would mean that the investments of the member states, and that's public money, would have been wasted. But much, much worse is that it would have severely limited what humanity can actually learn about the universe, the cosmos, because Paranal, as you can see in the graph on the right, is the darkest place on Earth where an observatory is currently based. So there isn't a darker spot right now. It enjoys light pollution in the level of less than 1%. And basically, what we can't see from there, we can't see from anywhere, especially considering that ESO is building an extremely large telescope there, which is the most sensitive machine to do so. So this is a real threat. Which brings me to the topic of when science communication, astronomy communication needs to go advocacy and really try and make a case to protect the conditions for science. And let me talk to you about ESO's response to that threat, which was a very, very big campaign. Here you have an action plan. It was a campaign along various pillars, as you see here. There was a technical and scientific pillar, which was about assessing the impact that that project would have on science and operations. There was a legal element to that, which was about presenting the concerns to the environmental agency that was evaluating that said green energy project and whether it could go ahead. There was a political element working with, and let me say on, Chilean decision takers, policymakers, to help get this project relocated or protect the observatory sites with a safe radius around them. And there we had a lot of support from our member states. So there was member state politicians involved as well. The scientific community was absolutely central, engaging them in a shared endeavor because they drove the whole campaign. And then, of course, there was a communication element, raising awareness of the issue and trying to get people to act and support in it. A question: which the telescope, where they are located in close to Antofagasta. This is where Paranal is. Where close is relative. It is in a remote location, but that's the region. All right. The goal of the campaign. The short-term goal was getting the project, INA was its name, relocated 50 kilometers away from the observatory sites, where the impact wouldn't be felt that devastatingly anymore. And then, of course, a long-term goal about preserving the unique sites, the observatory sites, also in the long term. And here, it's very important to notice that the project that was causing the problem is actually something really, really worth supporting. It's a green energy project. It's something the world needs. It's something that Chile needs. It's something that the region around Antofagasta needs for economic development, for work, and all of this. So ESO's position in this was very strongly that Chile shouldn't have to choose here. We can do astronomy, we can do green energy, we just can't do them side by side so close. So this was the position that we were arguing, and it's a fine line, of course, because you don't want to impede development in that region, but at the same time you want to protect the astronomy facilities and the possibility for humanity to observe the universe from there. So the message of this campaign had to be very carefully crafted. We wanted it to be emotional and to create a sense of urgency where people would act and support us and speak up for the protection of astronomy. So it needed to be urgent enough. And the arguments used for that, of course, are on the one hand, the loss of humanity's ability to learn about the universe, but also talking about the benefits that astronomy provides to society and other. Okay, now I've finally found the way to see my slides while I'm presenting. Good. And other arguments as well. Chile prides itself really it has an identity of an astronomy capital around the world with lots of facilities being based there. Astronomy research drives development. All of these were arguments to say, hey, this is urgent, there's something really at stake. It's also a unique heritage, the night sky, it's worth protecting. So on the one hand, the emotional urgency. On the other hand, we're a scientific organization. Our scientific credibility is our biggest asset. So we had to make sure everything we communicate around this topic was fact-based, was measured, was really, really scientific, that we only had spokespeople that were experts in the field. And this often made us quite slow in reacting, and we had to really elaborate those messages carefully. Now, the campaign we ran, they really ranged from local to global. You have a collection of audiences on this slide. So the one that's to the left is maybe the first audience we thought of, which is the company that was planning the project. And we very quickly realized that that is actually no audience to work with, because addressing them with our concerns led to them not really engaging, saying they are within the current light pollution legislations for Chile. They think there's no problem, this can all be mitigated. And we knew from our studies and assessments it couldn't. So we had to bring in a lot of other audiences to communicate with. And there you have the inner circle, the decision takers, the Chilean authorities and the governments, both regional and national, where we acted and interacted directly to be heard and get their support. Not only ESO as such, but specifically the Chilean astronomy community. They were really the drivers of that campaign, and they did a lot of the heavy lifting with the policymakers, supported by visibility that we helped them with through Chilean media, where they were the spokespeople. We also worked and aligned with local communities around the observatories that, for different reasons, maybe also for the same reason, wanting to protect their natural environment, had difficulties with the project as well. So there was a lot of alignment there and a closed front. Then beyond that, we had international scientific experts weighing in, Nobel Prize winners, eminent scientists who wrote letters to the president of Chile, to ministers, and attended meetings with the Senate. I only have 1 minute. Okay, now I have to really rush through this. So there was the international science component, then there was international in terms of our member states who really contributed and supported politically. And then finally the society as well, that sets political agendas and made their concerns heard. Here are some images of all the people who supported us, the German president, the King and Queen of the Belgians, Nobel Prize winners, Chilean scientists. Sorry, I'm rushing through this, I'm running out of time. In terms of communication channels, we worked with traditional media, had lots of media visit Paranal to show the night sky that is at stake. We developed new outreach activities to show people the observatories during night so that they could relate, and a lot of social media work with aligning with influencers in the area so that we could get the messages out there. And when I submitted this talk, this wasn't clear, but after a year-long campaign, the project was actually withdrawn by the company. This followed the visibility of the kind of issue in the presidential election campaign in Chile. In the last TV debate that the final two candidates had, the question was asked, are you for astronomy, are you for the green energy project? And the two candidates had to position themselves, which just goes to show how much visibility we managed to raise around the issue. And following that, and we don't know how much of that is due to the campaign. The project was withdrawn and is no longer a threat, which was welcomed by Chile and especially the astronomy community. Although the quote on the slide says quite rightly, we haven't won here, we just haven't lost everything. And I think that's the point I want to close with, apart from the fact that this was a massive collective effort and that ESO and all of us are incredibly moved and grateful for all the people who supported us in this, which is a huge community. I would have read the quote, but now I don't have the time for that. Let me just finish with this. The conclusion is, as always, crisis is an opportunity. It was difficult work, but the protection of the dark and quiet skies through this work we did now got really established as a policy level at the highest, as a policy topic at the highest level in Chile. People are aware of this. Chile's light pollution regulations are being reviewed and revised based on that. We're hoping also that the Senate will vote for a law that will establish exclusion zones around observatories in the country. There's a lot of public awareness on this now. And also ESO committed itself further because we joined the IAU Center for the Protection of Dark and Quiet Skies as a full member and are doing a lot more work globally to raise awareness of that issue. Apart from that, yes, there's always some good in crisis as well, and I think it's a wake-up call. And I'm closing with that image because that's what we're fighting for and protecting, all of us, and it's worth protecting. And communication has to play a role in this. And I'm sorry I went a little longer than my time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any questions online? While we are waiting for questions online, do we have any questions here? Okay, just wait a bit.
Thanks for that very interesting talk. Just a quick point of clarification. Was the company told by the government to close down, or did they voluntarily exercise their own agency, and therefore it was like an internal decision? So it wasn't quite clear to me exactly how their decision came about and how you convinced them to make that decision, or were they just simply told by the government to do it?
It's an excellent question. I can't give you an explicit answer here. So to our knowledge, they haven't been told by the government. The press release they issued on the withdrawal of the project said they're kind of divesting from this line, from the green hydrogen line. It may well be that they found out it's not lucrative, financially lucrative. Having said that, the climate in the country on the topic was heated. And the presidential candidate who won, and it was clear at the time he would win, expressed he would support astronomy over that project. So I cannot tell you exactly what made the difference here. I think all of it together maybe. Luckily, it isn't important so much what it was. We're very happy it went away like this, but it's a complex situation, as you can see, many factors playing into it.
Any other questions here? Yeah.
Thank you, Anna, for this interesting talk. I wonder if society supported the company, because we are living a global crisis, right? And then green energy company might be something that society, communities wanted. So did it get to this level, or you were just more talking to at the political sphere, or also did you face any conflicts with local communities supporting the company?
Yeah, there were supporters for both sides. From what we could gather from the media echo and the social media, it was very much skewed towards supporting astronomy, not so much supporting the company. Although, of course, in the area, there were people arguing for the jobs that this would create and so on. But that was minor. What we experienced was a lot more solidarity and support for our course, maybe also owing to the fact that we said we actually don't want to stop that project. Just, the Atacama Desert is huge, like put it elsewhere. This can go elsewhere. So this was our line, and maybe for that we didn't face so much pushback. I don't know, but there wasn't a huge amount of criticism on us, I have to admit.
Thank you. If there are no questions, then we can move to the next speaker. And thank you again.
Thank you.
So the next speaker is Shigeyuki Karino from Japan. Hi. And the title is Effective Astronomy Communication for Older Adults. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. And organizers, thank you very much for giving me to present our study about effective astronomy communication for older adults. I'm Shige Karino from Japan, and I'm working with these people. Well, okay, as you know, many developed countries, including Japan, are aging very rapidly. However, many older adults today enjoy long, healthy years after retirement, thanks to healthcare development. And because of that, the importance of education for older adults has been growing. In the past, education for older adults mainly meant things like healthcare literacy or financial literacy. Basically, preparing for physical decline or economic challenges. But that image is now outdated. Older adults today are healthy enough, curious, and want to learn simply because learning is enjoyable for them. Many of them are deeply interested in and highly motivated. On the other hand, from the educator's point of view, older learners are not just adults with more free time. The motivations, mental models, and cognitive characteristics can be quite different from younger generations. So the goal of our study is, what does good astronomy education for older adults actually look like? Okay, the theoretical researches on older adult learning began in the United States in 1970s. Initially, it was believed that older adults continued to learn primarily to prepare for various forms of decline. Especially, this includes health education to delay physical decline as much as possible, financial literacy education to prepare for economic decline, and spiritual preparation to face the end of their lives. Such theories were likely buried half a century ago. However, today's older adults are healthy enough, even after retirement, and many who do not necessarily need to prepare for decline are engaging in learning activity proactively. Recent research on the motivations for older adults learning indicates that healthy older adults today enjoy the learning itself in expanding the knowledge through learning and in broadening the perspectives through learning. And honestly, such motivations seem similar to those for studying astronomy. Today's older adults do not aim to gain specific benefits through learning. This differs from the outdated image of older adults presenting in classical theory of adult learning. Of course, this also differs from younger generations who are receiving a formal school education or working generations under on-the-job trainings. Older learners choose their own subject and continue learning simply because they want to. Therefore, the design of education programs for older adults cannot be the same as that for younger generations. Furthermore, there is no need for simplifications they have enough knowledge and they seek to engage with genuine academic knowledge at a sufficient level. On the other hand, it is understood that activities in dark environment, including such as planetariums or stargazing parties and so on, can cause anxiety for learners who have experienced a decline in the vision or hearing. Well, these results in the previous studies have been published in the CAP journal, so please refer to it if you want to know more about it. Well, however, all the discussion so far has been from the learner's perspective. However, learners are not the only ones involved in the older adult learning ecosystems. Educators and program administrators who have already been involved in older adult education are likely to hold valuable insight as well. Sharing these insights will be very, very useful as the demand for older adult education continues to grow. Furthermore, by sharing insight, we expect to avoid repeated try and error activities and promote the development of efficient education programs. To explore this, we interviewed 12 people who have real experience teaching astronomy to older adults. Astronomers, educators, science communicators, and administrators, and so on. After transcribing the interview data, we grouped similar comments and organized them into categories. In the end, we found three major areas of concerns. First, participant level considerations, and second, classroom level considerations, and third, program level considerations. And within these categories, we identified 11 more specific topics. For instance, they are anxious about such as choosing appropriate topics in the classroom, venue infrastructures, and how to communicate with older adults, and supportive management required, and so on. By analyzing the statement of these data, those with educational experiences included in the data in this way, we can identify the specific know-how held by actual individuals who have supported the learning of older adults, as well as the challenges they face. So next, let me share some of the typical insights that come out of the interviews. First, the role of staff and experts are important. Many interviewees said that having researchers involved is extremely valuable. Older learners appreciate authentic, up-to-date scientific knowledge, and experts can provide that in a way that feels meaningful. And second, communication and accessibility is also important. Well, in the materials, clear visuals, large text, good writing, and the use of microphones are essential. Some older adults feel anxious in dark environment like planetariums or nighttime stargazing parties and so on, especially if the vision or hearing has declined. So accessibility isn't optional, it's a central issue. And the third, learning environment and structure is also important. A well-organized schedule, regular breaks, and a supportive atmosphere make a big difference in the classroom. Older learners often appreciate a calm condition, respectful environment, where they can ask questions comfortably. On the other hand, they feel uncomfortable in a noisy space and with sudden changes to the schedule. And finally, content selection is also important. This was interesting. All the adults do not want to taught with oversimplified way. And they prefer challenging, up-to-date content that lets them engage deeply. In other words, they want the real sciences. Okay, this is the last slide. So to wrap up, modern older adults are healthy, curious, and want to learn proactively. So we should move beyond the outdated image of older learners as people who only study to prepare for decline. And astronomy and its exciting big ideas can contribute to them. And in return, older learners can become strong supporters of astronomy also. As our societies continue to aging, bringing astronomy into older adult education will be increasingly important for broadening public understanding and appreciation of this field. At the same time, we need to modify our approach method to outreach to better satisfy all the participants. Okay, I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm asking here the audience if there are questions. Yes, one question.
Thank you very much for your talk. I would like to ask if you could comment a bit more about your students with who struggle, for example, with dementia or Alzheimer's or these kinds of conditions.
Conditions of what? Sorry?
Dementia, memory loss, Alzheimer's.
I see. Well, all the learners come to the classroom and gathering to the astronomy events and so on, and they are healthy enough, although they have retired from their work. So their mental condition is very good. The memory is clear and they can speak fluently and so on. However, on the other hand, there is a difference from younger generations, especially in the recognitions. It is said that older learners, older people are not good at to manage sudden change of the schedule and so on. Because of that, they are easily getting, getting angry to the sudden change or their uncomfortable conditions and so on. So there are such kind of cognitive differences from younger generations, but basically they are healthy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question from the public? Yeah, one question more.
Hello, thank you very much for your talk. I am curious if you have examples of the activities or lessons that you did with this research group, and if there's a location where you can share those or experience some of the content that you tried with your adults.
Okay, basically, we are involving in the the third university. That is a kind of lecture courses for older learners, and we have conducting an astronomy course for older learners, and in that course, the lectures are held in classroom basically, but sometimes I bring them to the planetarium, science halls, and so on. And I have held some event in the nighttime. However, they prefer to listen my talk or some experts talk in the classroom. They they said they don't want to go to planetarium and so on. However, at the same time, they how can I say, they like to make easy experiment in the classroom. For example, to make very simple telescopes and so on. So, well, what kind of method is the best for them? We are investigating. Investigating about that. Okay, thank you for question.
Thank you. We have a few more. So there is a comment from Silvia Casu. She's thanking you for the talk, and she says that she has a similar program for older people also in Cagliari. And another question instead from Claudia. She's thanking you for the very interesting initiative. The question is, do you have any feedback from astronomers and communicators engaged in these activities? And how do they find the experience?
Okay, I have interviewed several astronomers who have involved in education for older adults. Well, I think I have not enough time. So just one curious example I will say. Well, one astronomer said that in the classroom for older adults, he said he doesn't use the word of death. For example, we often use the death of stars or the end of the universe and such kind of expressions. However, he says that such kind of expressions are strong for older adults. So he said such kind of expressions concerning with some kind of death or something. He says so. It's quite interesting for me, and I have learned from his advice, and I'm avoiding to use such kind of words. And of course, I have a lot of examples, but I have no time to show all of them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So maybe we can go to the next speaker, and thank you again for your presentation. So the last speaker of this session is Eduardo Penteado from Brazil. He will speak about astronomy communication in transition, professionalization, disinformation, and the digital turn. Thank you, Eduardo, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Giulia. Hello, everyone. Greetings from early morning, Brazil. I want first to thank all the organizers for the opportunity to be here today. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And I'll be talking a little bit about disinformation in astronomy communication. And this project is being carried out with my colleagues, Patrícia, who just gave a brilliant presentation a few minutes ago, Frida and Wallace, all from public institutions here in Brazil. So a little bit of context. Actually, this project started a few years ago during the pandemic. As you all know, our lives was like turning upside down. The situation in the whole world was very critic, and particularly due to the necessary but complex situation with the social distancing, we had to turn our activities into digital. And many of us were not really prepared. So I'm speaking from Brazil, and this research was done here, and it was a very, of course, very complex situation everywhere. And here in particular, the moment was quite bad because we had at the moment even a officials, government that was spreading disinformation about all sort of topics to the public. So it was quite dramatic, and we want to understand how the astronomy communication community was dealing with this situation. So we launched a questionnaire that was filling out by astronomy communication practitioners, and they told us a little bit of more details how they were dealing with the situation. Yes, of course, that's obvious that they were providing only virtual activities. Um, the good part of thing is that it seems that the number of participants increased, and the communicators also felt engaged in communicating astronomy during the pandemic. Also because they said that the situation at the moment rise this necessity. There were fake news spread everywhere in the media about all sort of topics, and they felt the necessity to discuss this with their public, and not only astronomy content, but also everything that was going on at the moment. And the public was requesting this kind of research. But the thing is that they still faced several issues because, again, nobody was really prepared to turn digital completely out of the sudden. And many of them did not have any support, financial or institutional. Most of the respondents of our questionnaire were young scientists, like graduate students, undergraduate students that were providing activities for the public. There were, of course, some other researchers, some other university staff, amateur astronomers, other people that perhaps could have a little bit of more support, but the majority was a little bit lost in this moment. But still, they were engaged. And although their engagement was more like for intrinsic reasons, so they feel like they should do this, besides the lack of support. But again, they noticed that the situation was complicated and fake news was spreading fast. Then we thought, what could we do to support the community? So later, we, through the Museum of Astronomy and Related Science, we launched a course. It was called Distance Learning on Astronomy Disinformation. The idea was to provide astronomy communicators some tools to first understand what is disinformation and how to identify disinformation in astronomy. And then provide some potential activities that could fight, against disinformation. So that was the goal, the main goal of this course. It was attended by teachers, by people that was working with informal education, like museums, journalists, or also in planetariums, mainly this kind of participants. And they also share their experiences. And again, we noticed that they were really worried about the spread of fake news. So this course was really interesting. The participants were really keen to find ways to fight against disinformation, and that was one way that we found to support the community. But still, we have this broader question: what is actually disinformation? So that was something that we treated during this course. And well, we can think in a very simple way first that this information is a problematic information. That's fine, but that's not only that. The situation is much more complex. This information is like a process. They are, of course, fake news, which are a type of disinformation. We've seen everywhere the spread of pseudoscience, like astrology, ufology, conspiracy theories. But there are something behind that, especially nowadays where the digital, world, the cyber culture is like everywhere. Fake news and disinformation is spread much faster than before. And of course, disinformation is not something new. It is with us since ever. But the current status of our technology allows disinformation to spread much, much faster. And this can be a problem. We saw that during the pandemic, fake news and disinformation can actually kill. And disinformation in astronomy is not much different. We can think that is a little bit less harsh than disinformation in health or in politics, but they are all together in the same package. After all, during the pandemic, we had officials from the government saying that the Earth was flat. So absurd like that. And still nowadays, this is we see this kind of situation. So yeah, we need to understand a little bit more how social media work, how digital platforms work, and how disinformation spread, and what we can do to mitigate this, the effects, and how to fight against this. Because yes, disinformation generates really bad effects and impacts in the society. So with that, we come to the current stage of our research. We want to understand how our community, the community of astronomy communicators, is responding to this issue. And well, so the first thing that we did then was doing a search in the literature for publications about this. So the methodology is this. We selected a few keywords like disinformation, fake news, misinformation, etc. And we searched in the main journals about science communication, not only astronomy specifically, but also in journals that publish science communication in general. And we did this search in the time frame starting from 2010, when was more or less about when this fake news craziness more or less started. And well, what we learned from that, we found about 240 publications that were provided with these keywords. However, an analysis shows that less than 15 actually address disinformation in astronomy in a more significant way. This number is not that big, but still there are some very interesting research being done. Here are just a few examples. There's a very nice publication that discuss how pseudoscience mainly is being addressed in the internet and in books, using new technologies like machine learning to identify fake news. And then also people studying the the use of professional publications also in videos from YouTube, and also how accurate is then the content about science and in some social media. And we did a very similar research in the events about astronomy communication. So again, we searched for the same keywords in the same time frame in this with these events, major events about astronomy communication.
Eduardo,
yes.
Could you wrap up?
Oh, yes, wrap up. Yes, sorry. I
can
didn't see the
have
message
some
here.
questions for
Apologies.
you.
Yes. And here we found a few, actually lots of presentations that discuss about disinformation. And about actually 40 from the 70 found go a little bit more deeper in the topic. Although here is, then I go to the next. It's a little bit more complicated, actually. We need a deeper study because it's quite hard to find precise information about this in presentations, because sometimes we do not have proceedings, or we do not have access to the abstracts, just the titles of the presentations. So this is a little bit difficult to have a precise say about that. Publications are a little bit easier, although we can see that the numbers are very little. So there seems to be a gap of research from our community about this topic. So what actually we could do is, I think that our community needs first to understand disinformation as a process, not only fake news. That's not just about a bunch of people producing crazy information and spreading because they do not have anything else to do. Is something that go much beyond that. There are some people, get some money, and yeah, so lots of things going on behind that. And we could work with content moderation, fact checking, although these things are complicated, but something that we might try to do, and support regulation and digital platform responsibility and the digital and scientific literacy, because this seems that this is some kind of the best ways to, fight against disinformation in science and astronomy. Okay, so yes, I'm a little bit short of time, so I want to thank you, and I am happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Eduardo. We have, maybe we have one question from the public here. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very interesting. And I was thinking about the Harvard professor, I think his name was Avi Loeb, and watching his YouTube videos when 3I Atlas comet came into the solar system, and there was a whole discussion about what he was saying and what he was claiming in terms of it being some kind of alien life. I could see how that was then reported on all the major news channels and going directly to the public, directly via no other scientific. So anyway, what role does the power of influential people like that have in your model and in your analysis? You talk about the process of disinformation, but do you have any other factors relating to the incentives and the power of key individuals that can hold a lot of sway?
Well, yes, that's true. That some actually, I think that we need actually to understand not only the content itself, because it seems that lots of people who are brilliant astronomers, brilliant researchers, they know everything about science in terms of content, but how to communicate this to the public, that is a little bit different, right? So communication is something that we all should learn a little bit more. And I think that even brilliant astronomers, brilliant people should take care on what they say, even though sometimes it may be that they are making a joke. Some people may take this as serious. And we see that one grammar that fake news take is like saying that something was said by someone from a huge institution. So the idea of authority. So if there is really an authority saying something that is not really true, that's problematic. And that's why I think that we all as a community should really take care of what we say and how we say, and to whom we say something. Study the public, study the channel that we are working with. Yeah, and basically take care.
Thank you.
I don't know if I actually answered your question.
We have another question here.
Hi. So my question was originally to Mariana, who was from the first session. She was talking about astronomy communication in Brazilian journalism, but it's related to your presentations too. So in Turkey, there appear these fact-checking platforms, especially after the strict control of the government in media and the censorship. So, and they later in time they broadened their scope into fact-checking in pseudoscience and fake news and articles and this kind of stuff about astronomy also, because there are always like in a year 3 times they discover water in Mars kind of stuff. So are there these kind of fact-checking initiatives, platforms, or NGOs, as you may, in Brazil that you can trust? How does that work?
Well, there is some tools of fact-checking in Brazil, although I'm not aware of any specifically in astronomy. There are some sites, but I think that are mainly in things about health, climate change, that is close related to astronomy. But astronomy in particular, I'm not aware of. It would be good actually to have some to create. Maybe I can even go deeper and try to find if there's something that is maybe not that popular. But I think that fact-checking is something important. It's not easy to do. Sometimes we feel that we are doing something that in the end is not enough, but it's important. So I do praise for everybody who does fact-checking to continue that. And perhaps it's the time to create, if there's none, about astronomy.
Thank you. I believe that you also answered basically one of the questions that was also online. So it was about which are the good fact checkers or websites for astronomy. So thank you. So we are bringing up all the speakers that were online, and we have also the in-person speakers. So we would like to thank you again. Yeah, we had few comments still. So one comment from Cynthia was that also in Mexico, they had the UFO guy that brought the alien mummies to the Congress, for example. But in any case, this topic we should talk about today at the end of the day session, because there are a lot of things to say about. So the topic that Eduardo was raising. Also, Giulia, we had few questions for you left. I don't know if, yeah.
I should have answered online.
Okay, thank
you.
you.
If not, I'm available in case.
Thank you. Thank you, Giulia. So thanks to all the speakers of this session. Yeah, we will see online and in person again in the next sessions and next days. Thank you very much.